to welcome you to the Ask Jeff YouTube channel, and here is today's question of the day. Do you think that Melchizedeck was an angel or a Christophany? Now that's actually three questions in one, and allow me to unpack it. The first question is this: do you think? It doesn't matter what Jeff thinks, and to be quite honest with you, it doesn't matter what you think. The whole purpose of this channel is to find out, what does the Bible say? The second aspect is Melchizedeck. You're saying, Mel who? Melchizedeck is this very interesting character in the Bible who shows up in the book of Genesis chapter 14, as well as the book of Hebrews. That's where he's primarily mentioned. And then the third issue is a Christophany. You're saying a Christ what? A Christophany is a theological term that we utilize when we particularly walk through the Old Testament, where we see characters who exhibit the traits of Jesus Christ, but obviously prior to what we know as his incarnation. Let me unpack that part first. We know that Jesus Christ, he lived, he died, and he rose again physically over about a 33.5-year time period that we refer to as his incarnation, God becoming flesh. But the Bible makes it very clear, not only in the Gospel of John chapter 1, but a multitude of other places, that Jesus Christ has always been. There's never been a time where he was not. So whether it be Zechariah chapter 3, where there's this angel of the Lord who's talking with Joshua the priest that forgives him of his sins and speaks as only God could, or whether it's the captain of hosts in Joshua's life, or a multitude of other places, there are characters in your Old Testament that when you take a step back, you say, well, that looks like Jesus. That sounds like Jesus. And guess what? Melchizedeck is one of those characters. Now, when he shows up there in Genesis chapter 14, he's called the king and the priest of Salem. By the word Salem in Hebrew means peace. Jerusalem, Salem, place of peace. That's important because he's a priest and he's a king. In your Old Testament, humanity was allowed one of three positions. They could serve as a prophet, they could serve as a priest, or in some cases, like Saul, David, and others, they could serve as a king. And occasionally, they could hold two offices. You have Samuel, who was both a prophet and a priest. You had David, who was a king and who was a prophet. But you never find a single person in the Old Testament who the Lord allowed to be a king and a priest at the same time. In fact, this is what got King Saul in trouble in 1 Samuel chapter 15, when he offered the sacrifice of a priest. That was not the king's role. So Melchizedeck, here in Genesis chapter 14, is the only person in the Old Testament that's allowed to be a king and to be a priest. And in addition to that, when Abram comes to him and he offers his tithes, the spoils of the war, he worships him, and Melchizedeck receives the worship. Now let's fast forward to the book of Hebrews. In the book of Hebrews, Jesus is parallel to Melchizedeck, one who had no beginning, who had no end, no father, no mother, no direct lineage. And so there's this incredible parallel where it says that Jesus Christ was not after the order of Aaron. That's important. Aaron, the brother of Moses, who started the priestly tradition in the Old Testament. See, in the book of Hebrews, it says that Jesus is better than fill in the blank. And in that section of Hebrews, it's saying that Jesus is better than the priests because they offer a sacrifice daily that at the end really doesn't do any good, but that he offered one sacrifice with his blood for all eternity to grant us everlasting life after the order of Melchizedeck. See, Jesus Christ was a prophet. He was a king or a priest, and he's a coming king. And so in Jesus Christ, we see all three offices pictured typically at Christmas time by the three gifts of what we know as the Magi and the wise men. Hebrews says after the order of Melchizedeck. Melchizedeck was the only king and priest in the Old Testament, so many, including myself, kind of go by default and say, that must be a Christophany, because we are commissioned in Scripture never to worship anybody but the Lord. So why would Abram be allowed to worship some random priest king from a place known as Salem? Why would he receive his worship? Why would he receive his tithes? Why would he hold those offices? I believe Melchizedeck, as mentioned in Genesis 14, as referred in the book of Hebrews, I believe was a Christophany. That being said, we see evidence in the Bible that Jesus' existence was not relegated to 3.5 decades on earth, but has always been. But it was during those 3.5 decades where he walked the dirt of this ground, he resisted all temptation, he bore the nails on the cross, he bled real blood, and he physically rose from the dead, making it possible so we could be saved. That, my friends, cannot come after the order of Aaron. It would have to be after the order of Melchizedek. Again, thank you so much for your question today. Keep those questions coming. AskJeff.net, and maybe tomorrow's question will be yours. Thanks for being a part of today's daily question. Now, we answer a question each and every day. Please feel free to submit a new question at AskJeff.net. We may not have gotten to yours today, but we eventually will continue to be a part of this. Subscribe so you don't miss out on a question every day.